Good morning, everyone. My name is Yvette Kelly with the Managed Care Technical Assistance Center, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Aligned Home and Community-Based Services webinar. For today's presentation, I'll be joined by a number of our state partners from the Office of Mental Health, Office of Children and Family Services, Department of Health, and the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. Today's webinar is the third in a series of 5 webinars dedicated to the newly aligned HCBS. If you have not had the opportunity to join us for the prior 2 webinars, you may access the recording and slides by going to our website, mctac.org. The 2 remaining webinars will be held on March 22nd and March 28th at 10 a.m. Please refer to the website for registration information. Before we get started, I'd just like to review a few housekeeping items. The slides and recording from today's webinar will be posted on our website. Upon the conclusion of today's presentation, there will be a brief question and answer period. We are asking that participants submit their questions utilizing the chat box feature located on the right-hand side of your screen. If the chat box is not visible, please click the dialog bubble towards the bottom of your screen and the box should appear. Please feel free to submit your questions at any point during the webinar. As always, information and timelines are current as of today, and for official guidance, please refer to the provider and billing manuals. Today's presentation will provide an overview of some of the key concepts, detail the specifics of community habilitation, dayhabilitation, palliative care services, and end with a review of HCBS eligibility and crosswalk of services. As the state moves forward with the implementation of new services and the transition to managed care, it's important to grasp the understanding of some of the key concepts. One of the most significant things to pay attention to is the updated children's transition timeline. Just to note some of the highlights here, in January of this year, 3 of the 6 new children and family treatment and support services were implemented in both managed care and fee-for-service. As the new services came on board, waiver agencies needed to obtain the necessary recommendation for these new services and crosswalk these with those that were historically waiver services for inclusion in the child's plan of care. The transition from waiver care coordination to health home care management is in process and is expected to conclude on or by March 31st. In July of this year, family peer support will be implemented in managed care and fee-for-service, and behavioral health services already in managed care for adults 21 and older will be available in managed care for individuals 18 to 21. And the SED carve-out for OMH clinics serving children goes away. In October, the 1950C Children's Consolidated Waiver Services and Voluntary Foster Care Agencies will be carved into managed care, and this is highlighted as this is a recent update to the timeline. And lastly, in January 2020, the remainder of the new CFTS services will be implemented. Just to reiterate, beginning April 1st, the former Children's 1950C waiver will no longer be active pending CMS approval. All children enrolled in the former 1915C waiver program, inclusive of all the 6 waivers noted here, must be transitioned to the 1915C children's waiver. HCBS will be billed fee-for-service and not in managed care during this time. In July 2019, the 3-year phase-in of level of care expansion begins, and in October again, the 1950C children's waiver services will be carved into managed care. It's also important to note that home and community-based services and the new children and family treatment and support services are different and have different requirements, processes, and paths to care. Providers must be designated to provide these services. There is built-in flexibility to allow for creativity. And as of April 1st, all current waiver slots will be combined and will remain the same until July 1st, 2019, when the capacity expansion will begin. More information on capacity and slot management will be forthcoming. The implementation of these services are intended to promote the health and well-being of children and families, and as such, these services are guided by the following core principles. Services should meet the individual needs of the child, consider the family the primary support for the child, be delivered in the child's community, reflect collaboration with other child-serving agencies, be culturally competent, and be provided in the least intrusive environment. So the HCBS settings rule, again, just emphasizes that services should be offered in the least restrictive setting, including the most integrated home and community-based service setting where the child and family reside. So billing for HCBS services between April 1st and September 30th of this year will be billed fee for service for all waiver enrolled children. And beginning October 1st, these services will be carved into managed care, and the following applies. If the child is in a Medicaid managed care plan, then you will bill that managed care plan. Please note that plans are required to pay the government rates for at least 24 months from the date the service was included in the managed care benefit package, or however long the state mandates. Remember that in order to bill the plan, you need to be designated, enrolled as a Medicaid provider, contracted and credentialed, and in-network. Please refer to the Managed Care Plan Matrix as a resource for Medicaid Managed Care Plan information, which is searchable by region, county, or plan. And with that, I will pass it over to Lisa Kennedy from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities to walk us through the next part of the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. The next two services that we will be discussing are community habilitation and day habilitation. These two services are part of the HCBS array in the larger comprehensive OPWDD waiver, and after 4-1 will also now be part of the HCBS array in the children's waiver. Community habilitation is defined as services and supports related to the child's acquisition, maintenance, and enhancement of skills necessary to perform activities of daily living, instrumental activities of daily living, and or health-related tasks delivered in the community in non-certified settings. The focus of the service is directed towards service delivery occurring in the community, as I just mentioned, to promote independence and community integration. The community habilitation service components are services and supports related to assistance with functional skills and may help a child who has difficulties with these types of skills accomplish tasks related to but not limited to the following list: self-care, life safety, medication and health management, communication skills, mobility, community transportation skills, community integration, appropriate social behaviors, problem solving, money management. Again, this list is only an example. There's other types of tasks that can also fit into the community habilitation module. So why offer community habilitation? Acquisition, maintenance, and enhancement. These are the main components of the community HAB service. Acquisition helps a child acquire skills to perform a task. Maintenance prevents the loss of skills necessary to complete an identified task. And enhancement are supports to assist with promoting growth and independence with an already acquired skill level and to support the child's goal outside of the training environment. All of these goals that are being worked on through the provision of community HAB must be identified in the child's HCBS plan of care. Provider agencies of community HAB must include goals and outcomes on the child's plan of care to document their goals and outcomes, health and safety needs required during the delivery of the service, and necessary staff actions to assist the child to reach his or her goals and outcomes and maintain health and safety. An example of community habilitation, in this example, Tyler, age 19, is on the autism spectrum and is interested in becoming more independent from his caregivers. Tyler and his community HAB provider work on skills around meal prep, including creating a shopping list, visiting the grocery store, and cooking a few different meals at home. They also work on enhancing Tyler's skills navigating transportation in order to transfer the skills he already has learned taking the bus to school to using public transportation in the community. So in this example, Tyler is working on acquiring skills, which we just talked about, to become more independent from his caregivers. He's working with his community HAB provider on skill maintenance that he achieves in completing these tasks at the grocery store. And finally, skill enhancement relates to transferring the skills he has acquired when he has previously taken the bus to school, to other modes of public transportation. And all of these goals should be outlined in Tyler's HCBS Plan of Care. The modality for community habilitation can be provided in an individual face-to-face service or a group face-to-face service. So again, they must be provided face-to-face in a group setting or individually. This slide details the staff qualifications for the provision of community hab. Community habilitation can be provided by direct care workers, who may include personal care aides, personal attendants, certified home health aides, direct support professionals who meet the licensure and certification requirements under Title 18, or providers approved through the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities to provide community habilitation. Practitioners must operate in agencies which have been designated through the New York State Children's Provider Designation Review Team. This requires that agencies have appropriate license, certification, and/or approval in accordance with state designation requirements. And for community hab, direct support professionals providing this service must have completed the training stipulated in Part 633.8 and also the direct support professionals' core competencies curriculum. And there's a link there for additional information on that. Provider qualifications. All ComHab providers must be OPWDD certified providers in good standing with an operating certificate for the provision of community hab. If a provider is not an existing OPWDD provider, they are welcome to apply to begin the process. This starts at OPWDD's regional offices within the Division of Quality Improvement. Community habilitation limitations and exclusions. Only those services not reimbursable under the Community First Choice option state Medicaid plan will be reimbursable under this HCBS waiver. Community hab, this cannot be substituted for vocational rehabilitation services provided under the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 or other children's HCBS. ComHab services provided under this waiver cannot be duplicative or delivered at the same time as services otherwise available to a child through a local educational agency, including those services available under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act or Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Children living in certified settings may only receive the service on weekdays with a start time prior to 3 p.m. For school-age children, this cannot be provided during the school day when the child is enrolled in a school program. They are under the auspices of the State Education Department and the local school district. The service cannot be delivered nor billed when a child is in an ineligible setting, such as in the hospital, an ICF-IID institution, or in a skilled nursing facility. Approved settings for where ComHab can be provided. It cannot take place in an OPWDD certified residence, congregate, or institutional setting, a social daycare, or a healthcare setting in which employees of that setting care for or oversee the child. Foster care children meeting HCBS level of care may receive these services in a home or community-based setting where they reside that is not an institution. The rest of the slide defines an OCFS licensed institution. So in other words, kids that are in a foster care home may choose to receive community hab in that home. And we're moving on to day habilitation. Day habilitation is similar to community habilitation. However, it takes place separate from the child's residence or other residential arrangement. Day habilitation is being offered as a service in the Consolidated Children's Waiver to ensure that some of the Bridges to Health DD foster care children who are currently receiving the service have access to it in the new waiver, so for continuity of care. Day habilitation service components, they can be provided as, as individual dayhab or group dayhab. Day habilitation services are provided to a child at a New York State certified setting, typically between the daytime hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. However, service delivery may include outings to community non-certified settings. There is a supplemental version of individual and group dayhab that is available for children who do not reside in a certified setting. The supplemental day habilitation is provided outside of this 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekday time period and includes later afternoon, evening, and weekend hours. where the service can be provided. And dayhab and supplemental dayhab services cannot be delivered at the same time.
So this is Allison Behan. I work for New York State Office of Children and Family Services, and I'm going to talk through the next two slides. And the reason being is that Bridges to Health, the waiver that we've operated over at the Office of Children and Family Services, has had the service of dayhabilitation since day one in our waiver. And as Lisa talked about, continuity of care is quite important to us at OCFS. So the next slide says, why offer dayhabilitation? And what we think about is these are activities, environments, these are designed specifically to foster skill acquisition, and that includes appropriate behavior, promoting greater independence, community inclusion, relationship building, self-advocacy, and informed choice. Dayhabilitation services may offer to do a lot of things, including, but not limited to, reinforcing skills, behaviors, or lessons that are taught in other settings. People, and in our case, really children, that receive dayhabilitation may need these supports in a certified site-based setting. Therefore, the agencies that offer and provide dayhabilitation must have the capacity in the certified settings, even if the services they're called without walls. So I'll talk through an example. Juan, he's a child who's in foster care. He has a developmental disability, and he receives the service of dayhabilitation at an OPWDD certified agency. So in our example here, Juan and his dayhabilitation provider work on his communication skills. And we thought about this, about introductions, about small talk, appropriate topics of conversation, those sort of things. What we hope to do is help Juan to pursue his goals of making more friends, feeling comfortable around people that he doesn't know well. So again, when we think about the skills and such, this is the type of really useful and valuable time that a dayhabilitation provider could spend with a child like Juan who's in foster care to help him to meet his goals. And what I'll do next is turn it back over to Lisa.
Similarly to Community Hab, dayhabilitation can be provided in an individual or group setting, and it must be provided face-to-face. Staff qualifications. This slide details the staff quals for the provision of dayhab. Providers must operate in agencies that have been designated to provide dayhab through the New York State Children's Provider Designation Review Team. And similarly to Community Hab, I'm not going to read it again, the same qualifications must be met. Provider qualifications. All dayhab providers must be OPWDD certified providers in good standing with an operating certificate to provide dayhab at a bricks and mortar site for the provision of the service. And the nonprofit organization, as I just mentioned, they're certified by OPWDD to provide dayhab, and OPWDD directs provider agencies to screen staff against the Medicaid excluded provider list maintained by DOH and the Office of the Inspector General. Limitations and exclusions. Group and individual dayhab cannot be billed as overlapping services. Supplemental dayhab services are not available to individuals residing in a certified residential setting with paid professional staff because the residence is paid for, they pay for staffing on weekday evenings and any time on the weekends. So that staff is responsible for the habilitation needs of the child. Dayhabilitation is limited to 6 hours a day. Any child receiving HCBS under this waiver may receive this service. Service necessity criteria for the service requires that the child must have a developmental delay justifying the need for the provision of dayhab, but the child may also meet NF, ICF, IID, or hospital level of care. Children have a maximum daily amount of services that are available to individuals based upon their residence. Individuals residing in certified settings are limited to a maximum of 6 hours of non-residential service, which must commence no later than 3 p.m. on weekdays. Dayhabilitation services will not include funding for direct hands-on physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, nutrition, or psychology services.
Good morning. My name is Faith Moore, and I'm with the Department of Health. I'll be talking with you about palliative care services. I'm with the Children's Health Home Serving Children team. Palliative care is defined as specialized medical care that focuses on providing relief for children who are dealing with chronic conditions that also include life-threatening illnesses and that help to improve the quality of life for both the child and the family. That palliative care is provided by a specially trained team of doctors, nurses, social workers, and other specialists who work together with the child's doctors to provide the extra layer of support that can help that child to have a quality of life beyond what they have had before. It can be appropriate at any stage of a child's condition or illness, and it can also be provided along with curative treatment. It is not necessary for the child to be at a point where death is imminent. Children must, however, meet the level of care functional criteria and suffer from symptoms and stress of chronic medical conditions or illnesses that put individuals at risk of death before age 21 to receive palliative care services. There are 4 palliative care services under HCBS: Expressive Therapy, Massage Therapy, Bereavement Service, and Pain and Symptom Management available. Expressive Therapy is the first, and that includes art, music, and play therapy. Expressive therapy can help children to better understand and express their reactions through both creative and kinesthetic treatment. We offer expressive therapy to help children to feel empowered and in their own creativity, feeling control, and to aid in their communication of the feelings that they have when their life and their body may be rapidly changing during a very stressful time as they undergo a chronic condition or life-threatening illness, and the trauma that they can feel during their treatment. The child may also find that expressive therapy is a good outlet for them to express their emotions safely and have a medium where they can have control to play and explore their feelings with abandon. It's also an opportunity for the family to participate and to have an opportunity to form memories that they can share and have tangible objects in the form of scrapbooks, paintings, sculptures, and mementos that they can hold on to after a child who may pass as a result of their trauma. For expressive therapy, the service components are to help the child to better understand and express their reactions through their treatment, and the therapy is one-on-one. The staff qualifications are a minimum of 3 years of working with the medically fragile population and 1 year of clinical experience with the pediatric population, preferably involving end-of-life care. This first qualification extends across all the services involved. The specific qualification for expressive therapy for each of the modalities is a child life specialist with certification with the Child Life Council, a creative arts therapist licensed by the state of New York, a music therapist with a bachelor's degree from a program recognized by the New York State Education Department, or a play therapist with a master's degree from a program recognized by the New York State Education Department, court, and also a current play therapist registration conferred by the Association for Play Therapy. These practitioners must operate in agencies which have been designated through the New York State Provider Designation Review Team, and they are required to have the appropriate license, certification, and approval in accordance with state requirements. For providers, agencies must have been designated through the New York State Children's Provider Designation Review Team and have appropriate license, certification, and approval in accordance with state designation requirements. At this time, 3 types of providers are available: certified home health agencies, or CHAs, hospice organizations, or Article 28 clinics. There are limitations in the form of palliative care benefits may not duplicate hospice or other state plan benefits that are accessible to participants, and expressive therapy benefits are limited to either 4 appointments per month or 48 hours per calendar year. This limit, however, may be exceeded when it is found to be medically necessary. As an example, Violet, who's age 11, has a diagnosis of muscular dystrophy. A child life therapist who has a music therapy basis is able to work with Violet to create music that she can use to communicate her feelings, and works with Violet to create a video that she shares with her family of Violet making music. Massage therapy is another service benefit in palliative care. Massage therapy can help to improve muscle tone, circulation, range of motion, and also address physical symptoms that relate to illness, as well as providing physical and emotional comfort, pain management, and restore the idea of a healthy, safe touch for children and youth who've dealt with treatments that can often involve painful interventions and even feel trauma with chronic illness. Massage therapy, therefore, can help to provide physical and emotional comfort, provide pain management, and restore the idea of healthy, safe touch. The modality is provided one-on-one for children, and the staff qualifications, as we've said before, include the 3 years of working with medically fragile populations with 1 year of clinical service with the pediatric populations, preferably that end-of-life care. This is a currently licensed massage therapist, and direct service workers must have background checks. Practitioners also must operate within agencies that have been designated by the New York State Children's Provider Designation Review Team, and these agencies must have the appropriate license, certification, or approval in accordance with state designation requirements. Provider agencies must be designated through the New York State Provider Designation Review Team, and as stated before, must be either CHAs, hospice, or Article 28 clinics. Palliative care benefits, including massage, must not duplicate hospice or state plan benefits, and massage therapy is limited to 12 appointments per calendar year, or can be exceeded where found to be medically necessary. In this example, Abdel's medical condition causes him to feel very tense and agitated, so massage therapy can help him to feel relaxed, as well as to help him to address the physical feel of his condition. Bereavement service is another service under palliative care. Here, bereavement helps to help families and members to cope with the grief that is related to an end-of-life experience. Counseling under bereavement service is inclusive for those participants in receipt of hospice care through a hospice provider. Both children and youth with chronic conditions and their families can deal with grief and loss in the journey in a variety of ways and may need a variety of supports as they go through their journey over time, and that can include counseling, support services, and other groups. This help for participants and their families to cope is very beneficial to help support these families and their participants through this process. The service is a one-on-one for the member and also for the families who are eligible to participate, and it is inclusive in hospice care. As stated before, the staff qualifications are the 3 years with the medically fragile population, the 1 year of clinical experience with the end-of-life care. Specifically for bereavement services, we're looking for a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed master social worker, a licensed psychologist, or a licensed mental health counselor that meets current New York State licensing. And these practitioners must operate in agencies that have been designated through the New York State Provider Designation Review Team with the appropriate license, certification, or approval in accordance with designation requirements. And in agencies that have been designated through the New York State Children's Provider Designation Review Team as a CHA, hospice, or Article 28 clinic. These benefits are available as long as they do not duplicate hospice or other state plan benefits and are limited to the lesser of 5 appointments per month or a total of 60 hours per calendar year. For bereavement services, this example discusses Abraham, who is receiving bereavement counseling to help him to deal with the recent diagnosis of a terminal incident. Some days the counselor helps Abraham to work through his own journey, and some days the counselor includes Abraham's family to assist them in coping and any changes that they may be experiencing as they work through their own issues with the result of the diagnosis. The last service is pain and symptom management. For palliative care pain and symptom management, this is to help with the relief and or control of the child suffering related to their illness or condition. For bereavement, or for pain and symptom management, this is an important part of helping to provide relief from pain and symptoms and the side effects that can occur as a result of chronic conditions. And it also helps to provide the layer of quality of life. It's provided one-on-one and to provide both relief from pain as well as quality of life in pain and management control. Again, the minimum of 3 years working with the medically fragile and 1 year of clinical experience. The staff qualifications are as a pediatrician or family medicine physician who is board certified in pediatrics, or family medicine licensed by the state of New York, or a nurse practitioner who is licensed by the state of New York in pain and symptom management. These practitioners operate in agencies designated by the New York State Children Providers Designation Review Team in agencies with the appropriate license, certification, or approval in accordance with designation through agencies that have been designated with the New York State Children's Provider Designation Review Team in a CHA, hospice, or Article 28 clinic. And these benefits would not duplicate hospice or other state plan benefits. This particular benefit has no limits and is just as required by the member's physician. In this example, Kayla has a genetic disorder that results in progressive nerve damage causing excessive, extreme physical pain. And Kayla's physician works with her and her family to assist them in managing both the physical and the psychosocial aspects of her symptoms.
All right, so this is Sonia Ellison from the Department of Health. I just want to briefly go over HCBS eligibility crosswalk. So this work should be being done now for those kids and providers that are transitioning their children and looking at their plans of care. So HCBS eligibility, there are, to meet level of care criteria, you need target population criteria, risk factors, and functional. This is all, the HCBS determination will be within the UAS system, which also houses the CANS New York. So this work is being done in conjunction with the health home care manager. Go to the next slide, please. So who's doing what? This is what I just outlined for LOC. And then frequency, scope, and duration is the HCBS provider. I'm getting a lot of questions on this is, do I have to have a health home plan of care and an HCBS plan of care or a service plan? And the answer to that is yes, and you'll see in those boxes what each one of those is for. So these slides are old, and I'm going to quickly go through them to allow for time for questions. So the next few sets of slides break down each of the waivers that are consolidating. So what you're looking at on the left, if you could stay on this slide for just a second, is what the services we have today in the OCFS waiver. On the right is what it will be in the future. And so when you're looking at transitioning that child, you should be looking at what the kid has today, how will they get it tomorrow, and are there any additional services in the array, which is not on this slide, that you would want that child to have on 4-1. So the advantage here by consolidating the waivers is so that all kids have access to all services that are appropriate for them. So you're not just going to put all of them on there, but you're going to be looking at person-centered planning, right? Next slide. We can go through the next one too. You'll see there for each one of the waivers. We also included 2 grids of what the combinations of services that can be allowed at the same time, so I will not review those. These are more reference slides. And then we'll send it back to MCTAC for tools and questions.
Thank you. So just a reminder to please submit your questions for the presenters today via the chat box. The presenters are going to do their best to answer as many questions in the time allotted. In the event there are outstanding questions that have not been answered, they will incorporate that into future guidance. I'd also like to take a few minutes to review a few tools and resources that may be helpful during this transition. As I mentioned earlier, the Managed Care Plan Matrix is a comprehensive resource for MCO contact information and is searchable by region, county, or plan. You can also take advantage of our billing tool, which is an interactive form that highlights the requirements for submitting a clean claim for each managed care organization, as well as a glossary of terms, which is an online resource for frequently used managed care terminology. Also, if you have any questions, can we just need to move the slide. All right, thank you. So here's a number of resources that are available to you. Again, if you're able, when you're able to access the deck online, you'll be able to click directly to these links. So again, just a number of resources that may be helpful in the children's transition. Next slide. Next slide, please.
I did pass the ball to you.
All right, thank you. Just got it. And lastly, there's a number of email resources. If you have any questions related to the children's system transition, please feel free to email the appropriate mailbox and specify the kids system managed care in the subject line, and someone will respond to you. And with that, it's just a quick review of some of the resources. But with that, I'd like to pass it over to our state partners to begin the Q&A period.
All right, we're going to try and start to answer some questions. Can bereavement service continue beyond death of a child? The service is associated with the Medicaid number for the child, so there really isn't any way to bill. I know this has been discussed previously in other trainings. Providers, of course, can continue to meet with their family, but there will be no way to bill that. Do children need to have an IDD diagnosis in order to receive community or dayhab? Meredith?
Yes, they would need to have some sort of appropriate ID or DD diagnosis to get community hab or dayhab. The question went on to say, if the child just has a mental health or serious emotional disturbance diagnosis, could they receive these services? And the answer is no. The most appropriate service for a child with SED or significant mental health needs is psychosocial rehab, PSR. Psychosocial rehab are rehabilitative services and most appropriate for children with mental health needs. Community hab or dayhab services are habilitative services and most appropriate for kids with developmental disabilities or ID. So if a child has both a co-occurring mental health and DD diagnosis, then a care manager or someone who's working very closely with a child would be able to evaluate them to discern what appropriate services that they may need throughout the array of services available to them, given their diagnostic needs, and how best the services would best meet their needs according to their functional deficits.
So can the dayhab services be provided in community without having to go to the agency's brick and mortar certified dayhab program, i.e. the child is being picked up at their foster care home and dayhab services are provided for 2 hours in the community?
Yes, that's a great question. So just to clarify, dayhab services can be delivered in the community. What we require, however, is that agencies that are designated to deliver dayhab must have the capacity to deliver the site-based service if that's what a person needs, and that would be because that's where the clinical staffing and oversight would be available. So we want to make sure that those agencies have that capacity. But dayhab services can be delivered in various community settings outside of certified dayhab.
There's a question on, can a CHA subcontract for some of these services, for example, to an agency that has a massage therapist, or must they be an employer of the CHA? So there is no subcontracting. The CHA needs to be designated by the state designation team, so you have to have a designation letter, and then they would have to have their massage therapist employed with that designated agency.
The question is for palliative care services, do mental health conditions count as chronic medical conditions that have a risk of death before age 21? In other words, can a youth with mental health diagnosis receive palliative care services under any conditions? And the answer to that is no. They're chronic medical conditions, not chronic mental health conditions. So they would not be eligible or appropriate for palliative care. unless they had a co-occurring chronic medical condition. If they had that as well as mental health, then they would be eligible, but without that, a mental health solely would not be eligible for palliative care.
So the question is whether a child who is in school can participate in dayhab. And the answer is, during school hours, the child is at school and Medicaid services cannot be accessed. So there is no dayhab happening while a child is at school. However, depending on where a child lives, if they live with their own family, for example, there are dayhab services that may be offered outside of school hours with some limitations. But that would be typically not at a certified site. But we had answered previously that dayhab can be delivered in community settings outside of a certified location, and in that case, if required, services could be delivered to a child.
So there were two questions. I'm going to answer both of them. The first one was, what's the difference between a health home plan of care and an HCBS service plan? A health home plan of care is the document that's created by the health home care manager, which lists the full array of services and interventions that the child is engaged with: medical, dental, behavioral, social, all the types of services. They highlight it and they do a comprehensive assessment. On that plan of care, it does talk about what those services are intended to do and achieve. And as it relates to HCBS services, it does also include frequency, scope, and duration based on what was told to them by the HCBS service provider. So the HCBS service provider, on the other hand, is responsible for doing their own determination of what the child needs based on the referral and what made them eligible for HCBS in the first place. They will identify the goals and objectives of this specific service that they are providing. They will outline that on their service plan. In addition, based on those needs and the extent of the needs, they will discern the appropriate frequency, scope, and duration that the child will receive the service in. They will share that information with the health home care manager for inclusion and notation on the health home plan of care. But the tracking and the progress notes and all of the work that's associated with the service provision is in the case record in the hands of the HCBS service provider in accordance with their very detailed service plan associated with the actual HCBS service. So those are the differences between the health home plan of care and the HCBS service plan. The other question that was asked was, what's the difference between community habilitation and psychosocial rehabilitation? Once again, community habilitation is a service that requires the child to have a developmental disability diagnosis or an intellectual disability diagnosis that makes them need habilitation, which means that they need a skill and need to learn the capacity to do something from the beginning. They have not had the skill previously, and they need really support developing a skill due to their developmental disability. It's HCBS only. Psychosocial rehab, on the other hand, requires the child to have a behavioral health diagnosis to receive it. It needs to be recommended by a licensed practitioner of the healing arts, and it needs to address a child's reduction in their skill sets due to a behavioral health need. So because of the functional limitations that they're having due to a mental health or behavioral health diagnosis, the psychosocial rehabilitation is focused on rehabilitating and supporting them in their progressing around the identified goals and objectives for what the intervention is intended to focus on. And so it's really a rehabilitative service as opposed to a habilitative service like community habilitation.
There's a question on staff qualifications for community HAB services. Are current B2H HAB providers qualified, or do they require to complete direct support professional training?
So the qualifications, I don't know who has the ball at this point for community HAB. It's on, they're listed on slide 18. So whoever has the wheel, if you could just go back to that. And Kate Marley and Lisa Kennedy are here from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. So I'd, thank you, whoever is getting back to slide 18. It's a little bit buried in the presentation.
So something to keep in mind here, though, is that you also need to meet agency requirements. So
correct.
You have to be a designated provider for the service.
Yes.
And if you,
go ahead. Keep going.
I was going to say, if you're designated for the service, then you're acknowledging that your staff are qualified to slide 18.
Agreed. So I think what I would say, and this is Allison from OCFS, I would agree with Tanya very strongly. You have to read through the qualifications that are listed here. Again, these are the staffing qualifications. The next slide has the agency qualifications, and you know, with the partnership of our friends from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, they are the ones that certify these agencies to provide this community HAB as well as dayhab. So there's the agency qualifications and the staff. So it really does take your time. It behooves you to take the time to read through and make sure that you understand all the qualifications.
And I just want, this is Kate Marley, I just want to jump in on this. I think it's important to remember that community habilitation will be called skills acquisition, maintenance, and enhancement under community first choice option. So what that means is it will also be, in a few months, a state plan service. So the staff who can deliver the service, that reflects the fact that there will be a multitude of providers that may deliver that service to different populations under this other state plan option. For the children's waiver, that's the main focus of today, it is those agencies designated by OPWDD, and the staff must meet those requirements. So that's just a point of clarification for the folks who are on this call today. It's really to make sure that your staff have the appropriate training, oversight, and background checks, et cetera, that are required for delivery of service under the HCBS waiver.
There's a question here about who is responsible for getting authorization from managed care organizations for services, the health home care coordinator or the HCBS service provider. So before I answer the question, I'm just going to highlight the timeline slide quickly and just remind folks that the HCBS array is not coming into managed care until October 1st of 2019. So while this is an important question, it's not a day one question. So I do want to just remind folks that the billing beginning 4/1 for HCBS will be to Medicaid fee-for-service. But then just to answer the question, we have done some training in the past around the HCBS workflow and how individuals who are eligible for HCBS access services when they're enrolled in a managed care plan. We will be refreshing all of that training and providing more information in writing, but ultimately, authorization for continued services has to be a conversation between the service provider and the MCO. That said, the health home care manager does have a role in interacting with the managed care plan because the health home care manager is the one that maintains the plan of care and would be involved in notifying the MCO of the services so that the plans know that the child is going to begin to receive services. So more information will come, but generally speaking, authorizations for services need to be between the provider and the managed care plan.
And again, the question is just to clarify, the health home care manager is responsible for the health home plan of care, and the HCBS service provider is responsible for the HCBS service plan. That was said perfectly, and you're absolutely right. The other question was, could a child be recommended for both HCBS and CFTSS services depending on eligibility criteria? If so, both services would be included in the health home plan of care, correct? So the answer to that is absolutely. A child could meet criteria for CFTSS services, meaning that they are at risk of or have a behavioral health need, and these services would be beneficial. And they could also meet the threshold of criteria for HCBS services, meaning that they're maybe potentially at risk of out-of-home placement or coming back from an out-of-home placement. So absolutely, depending on their level of need, they could be eligible for both under the criteria. So, and certainly if they have co-occurring needs, then they would also be eligible for both. They would be reflected in a health home plan of care and listed on a health home plan of care with an identification of what these services are intended to address. But each of the providers who are providing services under HCBS and CFTSS would both have their own HCBS service plans or CFTSS treatment plans, as well as these services just being reflected on a health home plan of care. So there would be two plans. One is the health home plan of care reflecting the services, and then the plan of then the service plan for HCBS or the treatment plan for CFTSS as well. So each has their own plan.
Just want to let our state partners know that we probably have time for about one more question, just so we stay within our time limits.
Looks like we don't have any additional questions at this time.
Yeah, there may be a questions that we weren't able to answer today, but we will make sure that we get the answers for them and provide them in the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I just would like to say thank you to our state partners for joining us today and walking us through the specifics of these services and answering a number of questions. For folks on the line, please remember to check out our website, mctac.org, to view past trainings, register for future trainings, and access our tools and resources. We hope you found today's presentation informational and helpful. I'd like to thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.